I currently work 25 hours a week at a small company designing greeting cards and paper tableware that they sell to TJ Maxx. I also take on freelance projects. Like earlier this year, I did a COVID-19 poster campaign for the city of Somerville. I did a banner installation that was on vinyl along a walking path that was portraits of people who live in the city of Somerville. I have done illustrations for mortgage videos this year, and also make portraits of the city of Boston and sell them online as prints. So I do like a lot of different things that aren't just making murals, and I thought that might be interesting. And so I was just gonna give some tips on how I would approach making a mural. If anybody here is making a mural or doing a utility box or any small or large scale things in the future, I think these are some good ways to start. When approaching, I usually ask what the conditions will be like working there. Is there electricity on site? Is there water? Is there a bathroom? Is there shade? Where can you dispose of water that you'll be working with? And what's the condition of the surface that you'll be painting on? In the case of the Condon Shell, someone's coming in the room right now. In the case of the Condon Shell, we were lucky to have electricity, water, storage materials, and bathrooms on site. I did not have to have a way to dispose of water, so I used two methods. One was I wrapped all my brushes in cellophane and took them home with me. And the other was that I brought 1 liter bottles of water onto the site and then took those home with me and disposed of them. So I was really limited in my water use, but you can make it work, whatever your situation is at the site if you have no way of disposing of water. The Condon Shell surface was pre-treated with a silicate paint, and in the past I've worked with other surfaces where I have to prime the surface beforehand and treat the surface if there's like grime on it and you have to scrape that away, or there has to be professional cleaning, getting those surfaces done, or blasting it with a hose yourself, like cleaning off the dirt. I used, in this case, actually Laurel's power washer. She let me borrow her power washer, and I cleaned the dirt off of the bottom of the mural, which you'll want to do before you start anything. And instead of just listening to me talk, I feel like it would be a good moment to play a video, and then we'll go back into just telling you more about paint and the materials that I used. So I will share a screen. Let's see, let's do this. And this is the video that Jack made, as Susan had mentioned earlier. So thank you, Jack, again.
I'm Meagan O'Brien, and I'm an artist who lives and works in the greater Boston area. I'm working on the Condon Shell mural in Medford, Massachusetts, along the Mystic River. I'm the muralist who's painting the shell. I'm a graphic designer by trade, and when I applied to do the Condon Shell mural, I came to the shell to really look at the Mystic River and look at the space before I decided what kind of design I wanted to put on it. And I really thought about the performers who would be using the stage. I wanted the shell to both have color and light and work with their theme of interconnectedness, but also like not distract from those performances that take place here. So I designed the river of the Mystic going through the middle of the shell and kept it very blue and light in the background, and then added these elements that kind of surrounded that stage and highlighted the people who'd be performing on it, including elements of fish and birds and the wildlife around the Mystic River. And working next to the Mystic River is absolutely beautiful every day. There are people kayaking, canoeing on the river, which is lovely to see, but also the lily pads are right here, and they just spring to life, and it's a gorgeous space to work in, a beautiful experience. People walk along the path and they tell me how great I'm doing, how awesome everything looks, and that's also really rewarding. I think I really enjoyed being up in the lift, even though it was scary, and painting the birds. That's been my favorite part. Seeing the top of this shell come to life is just so exciting every time I'm here. One of the hardest things about making this mural has been the shape of the shell. I have worked before on large scale murals. I've worked using grids. I've worked using projectors to do things. This was a concave shell, so it was really difficult to understand where the art was going to go and how things were going to turn out. I think it was a lot of back and forth where I would walk out into the field, take a photograph, and then come back into the mural shell just to alter based on the photograph, seeing what people would see if they were out in the field, you know, looking at performers as an audience, so that I would understand where those shapes would go. So if you actually stretched out the city that's at the top of the shell, I think that the lines would be kind of curving inwards, and it was a very strange, difficult thing to paint, but really fun and challenging. Wild. Working with Cachet has been really great since I was awarded the mural. They've just been really supportive, really easy to work with, and it's been an awesome experience. I hope that the mural brings joy and life to the community. I think that it's a really smart thing to have decided to paint the mural no matter what. I know some people in the public wanted to keep it white, but I think that it makes it very noticeable from the street. There's a lot of people who are driving by in their cars, a lot of traffic on this road. And I think that it'll hopefully bring more life into the Condon Shell space. So I know they have some performances right now, but with this new painting, I think they're getting a lot more interest with people performing and how they can use the shell and how they can have events here. And I know Cachet has worked really hard over the last, I think it's 5 or 10 years now, to make festivals around the space and have events happen here. And so to bring more people in to really utilize this gorgeous space, I think is what I hope for too. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for leaving that in there, Jack. Thank you. Thank you so much to Jack. Yeah. So let me just go back and tell you about materials that I used on the shell. All right, so after a lot of research into this, I use outdoor exterior acrylic latex paint. I typically use Behr products, which I purchase in 1-gallon cans at Home Depot. There are a lot of suggestions for other products online. I've used Sherwin-Williams before. You can use Gildan, which is really popular with artists and murals. But as long as it's exterior or outdoor grade for this particular project or for utility boxes outside, you're working on paint that'll work in your space. I also use flat white or flat paint, not glossies or sheens. Recently I was working on a utility box in Arlington, and I bought 2 quarts of paint and thought that using the smaller quarts would be enough. And it really, I probably could have gotten away with buying a much less like bottle of paint, a smaller squeeze tube. So kind of deciding on how much your square footage is and knowing that it's about 400 square feet per gallon of paint that you have can be helpful if you're starting a project. Let's see. Oh, and then I just wanted to mention the brushes that I use. I use short hair, stiff brushes for detail work. So if you go up to the Condon Shell, you'll see that like a lot of my lines are very well edged and perfect, because at the end we went back and did all this wonderful edging. So find yourself a good paintbrush for sure.
So Megan, can I follow up with that question? That was one of my questions. It looks so perfect from the the viewer's point of view. But you did it all by hand, right? None of these things are stencils or, that's just amazing.
Yeah, thank you. I sometimes use tape, especially for those triangles, like I think to get a straight edge. We also had rulers or other things to just help us, but a lot of that stuff leaves a messy edge. So, you know, even the paint gets underneath the tape. So you'll want to go back afterwards with a brush and just do that edge cleanly.
Right.
So.
Who was we besides you?
Oh.
Who helped?
Sorry, I should have mentioned that from the very beginning. So I started the project in June, and my mother happened to be visiting, my mom, who is here on camera. So she actually helped for the first 4 days. She is an artist herself, and she happened to be here. So thank you so much. That was amazing. I also hired one other muralist to work on the project with me. She was on site for about 4 days and also did a bunch of the painting around the site. I was going to shout this out later, but Laurel, who is part of Cache in Medford and is here tonight, also helped with some of the painting. She volunteered for 2 different days and came and did some of the work on the side and filling in like lily pads on the right side. And so thank you so much for that. And then I was lucky to have the help of my boyfriend who's here tonight, Keith, and my friend Steven, who's also here. Some of these people are not on camera, but they were here there mostly to do other work that wasn't painting. Keith was nice enough to make a drone video that I'm going to show. And so thank you to everybody. I don't think I'm forgetting anyone. I think that's the team of people who really helped make this happen. So thank you. So next I was going to share the video I have of the actual sketch being created. I think this is fun to watch. Let's see. This one, and we're going to go into a full screen. That wasn't full screen. Here, I'll pause it. Hold on 1 second. All right. So what you're seeing right now is how I created the design of the mural. I went to the site and took a photograph of the space and then began designing. I knew I wanted to do the Mystic River through the middle of it, flowing from the bottom right to the top left. And I just began drawing elements of nature around it. I knew I wanted to create a bridge that the performers would stand on to kind of present them, but also to integrate it into the landscape. I wanted everything to look kind of geometric and not be a exact drawing. And I knew it was really important to keep the space behind performers pretty blank and empty, or that's how I perceived it when I was there. I was really thinking about like the bands that'll be performing on the stage, and you don't want anything to be behind them that's obscuring them, but like you also want the mural to be active, and so how to keep a balance in those things. I think it's really interesting. Oh, sorry. So this is a digital sketch made in Procreate, and it records you while you draw. All of the things that I've drawn in Procreate record the whole time. And so it's interesting to see, like, I started out thinking I needed it's like a dozen fish on the bottom right, and just white birds on the top left, and really altering that as I went along. A lot of what I was doing here is I felt like I was adding in too much and editing out from the design, taking out what I thought I didn't need, trying to make it less busy. So just an interesting thing to see. How long is this? Another 2.5 minutes.
Oh,
but I did end up, like, when I got to work with Cache, they submitted, or I submitted my design to them, and when it was accepted, they got to give me feedback on this design. So that's when a couple things start to change in a minute. When you see the left and right sides will get added, the wings of the mural, that's after I've talked to Cache. And they were like, why don't you make the birds that are customary to the Mystic area? And the fish are also going to become representative of the alewife and the herring that are along the Mystic. So this is where we'll start to see that. And they asked me to get rid of the bicycle that was along the bike path that was there a minute ago. So now we'll see these night heron come up, which are the smaller heron that are along the Mystic River. And the sun will change a lot of times. And so in part, when I go into designing something, I'm not very precious about my work. I'm really trying to work with the organization or the person about what they're looking for and what they want, because I want to serve the community the best as I can. Another thing that happened while I was in this process, when the mural was published for the public to see, because it went through a round of voting with the public, and somebody Facebook messaged me who I did not know from Medford and suggested that I make the bridge on the bottom representative of one of the bridges in Medford. And so it became, the design changes from this to what's currently on the mural and looks like the Craddock Bridge, which is not far away. And I just thought that was wonderful that somebody decided to message me, and it was a really great idea. We're almost to the end of this, I think. Did you have a question, Susan? Sorry.
No, I'm just fascinated by how it records everything.
Yeah.
I am enjoying watching this. So
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, you can see I go through a lot of iterations. Like, I thought there should be a hill in front of the city. That did not make it into the final cut. But now we're getting closer to what it looked like at the end. Again, the sun beams keep changing over and over again. And these are not what the colors ended up being either. At the very end, I don't know that it'll be in this video, they asked if I could brighten the colors. So they look kind of similar to what the final ended up being, but they all get kind of a facelift. They don't look so, they're like alternative colors right now. And I think that's it.
Awesome.
Cool. So I want to ask a really specific question about the sun. Why did you keep changing it?
So they had asked me, both my meetings with Cachet, if I could give more varieties of the sun. I think I also was just struggling to find the right one. My initial design had the beams going all the way down into the performance space across everything. I think it really made it busy. And I thought it was a good comment from them to look for alternative ways, but I was just struggling to figure out which way felt the best to me. So I think I love where it ended up, actually. Now I can't imagine anything else than what it is. But even when I created that one, I think I was still like, well, do I want to do just different icons, different versions?
Right.
Yeah.
How long did designing this take you? Did you keep track of your hours?
I don't think I kept track. I was really appreciative of Cachet's choice to ask people for sketches of what they would propose for the design. And then if you were chosen, you would develop it more. I went ahead and made a colorful sketch. I would say that it probably took me 5 to 10 hours, because once you start getting into it, as you saw, I did a lot of editing even before. And then when I was chosen, it was really great all 3 of the artists who were chosen got paid a smaller stipend in order to develop their designs. And that's just something you don't see in mural applications. A lot of times you are putting in 5 to 10 hours initially and not getting paid because you're not chosen for that work. So that just felt really gratifying. So good job, guys.
Do other people have questions?
I have a very quick comment. I just like the way you changed the birds and the fish. At first it looked like they were going to rumble, but then they ended up in harmony together.
Yeah. It was a little West Side Story right there. Yeah. Thank you. I was going to mention, and this got mentioned in Jack's video, but the hardest part of the mural for me was that it was concave. So when you're working on murals on different surfaces, you also have to decide when you're approaching it how you want to paint on the surface. So a lot of times, I think a grid system is great, and that's what I used for the utility box I just worked on, for the first mural I did. I think a grid system works. You can also use a projector. I've done that before in the past. This wasn't going to happen very easily, either of those methods for the Condon Shell. So I ended up using this method where, especially when I was painting the sun and the city, I would walk out into the field and stand in around the same spot and take a photograph of the mural, and then come back and forth to kind of match up what I was doing, which, like I said in the video, I think that city is really like tilted inwards, but it doesn't appear that way when you're out in the fields because of how I had to do it. But yeah, that was really hard.
So that was just a step-by-step making minor changes to the perspective of it, yeah, until you got it right.
Yeah. So in part 2, the shell itself had some lines on it that are very light. that helped me understand where things were. I could see them both in the photographs and on the shell. So there's a line up the middle and just a couple indents basically, but they also were things that I was using to understand where I was, kind of like a grid system. But I thought if I tried to grid it, it would be too hard of a math problem for me. So I decided this was a good in-between method to just kind of guess while I was up there, especially when you're close up. You think you're painting it and it looks level and straight on, and then you would go away and it was it's totally different.
So when you were editing and making all those changes, were you actually doing it on the shell or were you doing it in the software program?
I was doing it on the shell. There were times when I had painted the sun on the shell when I did my first pass at it. And then I came away and used that photo method and I realized the sun was a good 2-3 feet to the left of where it should be. And so I moved the entire sun, which there's a fun picture of 2 suns in the air on the shell. Yeah, which was only there for a few hours. And that happened with a couple of other things, like trying to understand where those birds went on the left and lining those up properly. Just took some time, especially because I was trying to make objects that were repeated in size and shape. It was difficult.
Wow.
Oh, I think my mother is speaking, but she's muted. Oh, okay. All right, I'm gonna play the video Keith has made for me. It's a drone shot video.
Thank you.
Is it not open? I thought it was open. Sorry, one moment.
While we're waiting, I just wanted to say about Meagan, when she was working on the city and the birds, I would often get photographs. Mom, what do you think? What do you think? You think the bird's wings are the right size? And, you know, I just, I couldn't believe her persistence on getting it right. And she just, she did. She got it 100% right. It looks terrific on the, you know, the finished work is beautiful. But yeah, it took a long time.
Thank you, Mom. That's my mom.
Well, getting up on the lift alone, that's like very tedious work.
All right, here's just a few shots of the mural throughout the process. Oh, I wanted to mention while I was painting on this boom lift, it was very shaky. I had painted on a scissor lift before, but not a boom lift, and it was interesting to be up there and have it bobbing and moving so much. You'll see it in one of these shots. While we're going here, I know I was going to mention for this mural, I had to get mural insurance. And so if anybody ever needs to be insured for a mural, I use Symbol, which is a really easy online way to get insured and to make sure you're protected. So I would suggest it in the future.
Say the name again.
Symbol, like covering your finger symbol.
Oh.
And that was the concert that happened on Tuesday at the mural, which is really cool. Or last Thursday? I forget.
Yep, it was Tuesday.
Tuesday. they have that series of children's concerts happening on Tuesdays. Right.
Is there another one coming up that they're dedicating to you also?
A new concert? No.
No, isn't there one coming up at the Condon Shell?
There was one on July 22nd, I think, that they did do a little ceremony where the mayor came and she thanked me and they gave me some flowers, and it was really, really sweet. There is another concert there. I said this before. I think many people came on, but there's another concert there tonight with some live music, and it sounds like they have a beer garden. So very exciting. So the last couple things I want to say, I was going to mention sealing the mural and just the process of, at the very end, I used a product called Mural Shield that I coated the mural with twice, and it UV protects the mural. So not only is the paint made for outdoor exterior and UV protected already, but this is an additional shield that will make sure that it lasts for years and years to come. And after that, I had also applied anti-graffiti, 2 coats of that, which means that if anybody graffitis the mural, it's easily blasted away. It's a one-time use thing. So if you blast it and somebody graffitis the same area again, you're gonna need to put on more anti-graffiti. But it's a really nice insurance that you won't have to come back and repaint it. You can just blast away. And in case anybody is making mural again, I wasn't a huge fan of Mural Shield. I'll probably look into other products in the future. They sold a hand pump with their product, and it gunked up in the first 45 minutes and made it so that I couldn't spray anymore. So I had to figure out that issue, which was pretty stressful. I think it was also very hot outside that day, so it might be a combination of these facts, but there was that. And then it also was stripping away some of the color in my paint. So like my yellow sun situation, it started to take away my, my pink and show through some yellow that was underneath. And it was frustrating because I had to go up and fix it again. So I wasn't a huge fan. I might like hand paint UV protector on in the future. And then I was just gonna make some closing remarks, which is that it was my pleasure to work with Cache on the Condon Shell. I wanna say thank you to Allie and Carolyn and Laurel for making me feel very supported throughout the process. Your communication was so great. And I wanted to throw in an extra thank you to Laurel, who also helped me paint. And thank you to City of Medford and to MARV and to everyone involved in the project. I think I wrote this down. I think we've left time for questions. So if anyone would like to ask me any questions, let's do that.
I don't have a question, but I did just want to pop in and say thank you, Meagan, because you really made the process very easy, incredibly professional in how you handled everything, and very cooperative with the needs of the city for getting this done and rushing to get it done on schedule. And so that's greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So it's about back to the concave, dealing with that concavity. What have you learned, Dorothy?
About like painting on a concave surface?
Yeah.
Get more back massages. The first thing I've learned. I think it was really hard. Somebody actually commented the other day on my Instagram post and said, or they saw the mural and said, it must have really hurt to do that. And it really did. I think I might try out other methods or keep that in mind, that my muscles were cramping as I was doing that. Besides, how to map out on the surface, which I already talked about a bunch. But I might even design a mural differently so that I could avoid doing a lot of that neck craning and tight work on that kind of surface.
Meagan, I have a question about one of your comments. You said that in the video, I think that a lot of people stopped and admired it and made comments. Do you have any, were there any particularly memorable comments or funny things people said that you want to?
There was a whole array. One of them was great. A woman, it was during the farmer's market, and a woman came up to the fence and she said, "Hi, you're doing the mural." And I was like, "Hello." And then she said, "You know, I'm the mayor of Medford." And I thought the way she said it, I was like, I thought, you know, it was like a saying, like they used to call me like the president of, I don't know, Somerville. So it was just a very funny thing that she said. And then it took me a second because she was very serious. And I was like, "Oh, you know, you're actually the mayor of Medford." Like I felt very humbled all of a sudden. So it was really sweet. And, you know, she was like holding her kid's hand or something. I don't know. It was just seemed so casual. But that was a cool, funny moment. And then, what else happened? Yeah, and she is very young, so that was surprising. There was a woman who came up and did express to me that she wished the mural was still white, which I was surprised she wanted to talk to me about that. That happened very early on before any of the painting had really come up. And then later on in the process, no one said anything like that to me. And I had even heard some people change their tune once they saw the art that was up, which was really nice to hear. I think Laurel shared that with me. There was also a man who lived in the apartment buildings right across the street, and him and his wife live up in one of the top floors. And he said he had been watching me the whole time. And it was one of those moments. He was taking a walk at like 7 a.m. and I had happened to just arrive. And so it felt like a really special moment that he was just like, I've been following this the whole time. We love it so much. We watch you every morning. And that felt really nice. So there were a lot of really wonderful comments though, and people who stopped by and friends who came to visit. And so really love the public aspect of the being in the park. Yeah. And gosh, what a beautiful place to work along the Mystic. There was a turtle that laid its eggs in front of us one morning. And we got to watch her dig the hole and lay the eggs. Oh. It was so cool.
Mm-hmm. I go by there often I have a lot of family that live in Revere. So I go by there often and I look at it and I just think it's so noticeable and just so beautiful to see that. Yeah. I think I know her.
I have a question. So and you know, knowing you as I do, I know, so you are under kind of this deadline because, you know, you're painting kind of a structure that is going to be actively used. So, you know, there are people to schedule to use this, you know, pretty soon after you were completed with it. Could you talk a little bit about the challenges, because this is in the middle of a field, battling the elements on a deadline, you know, so you're
We lost you. Okay. It's funny because this is my boyfriend and I can hear him in the other room, but I didn't hear the rest of his questions.
I can type.
Oh, there you are.
Oh.
So you want me to talk about the time management of the project basically? And in part, so I knew I had a month to do this, and in my experience with murals, I kind of looked at the Condon Shell. Some people said when I began, they were like, it's so huge, but I also had worked on a 1,200 square foot mural. This is a 1,200 square foot. I worked on a larger one before. So one that was 3 times the size. And I knew that I could probably do this mural in 10 days if I had to. So I don't know how you estimate that without doing more murals or having a good, it also affects like what kind of paint you're using. If you're using spray paint, how complex is your design? So I also designed my design knowing that I had this deadline and knowing that I would still be working my job 3 days a week. So I was at work 25 hours a week for another gig. So I had to manage that time. And then I think what Keith was pointing out is keeping the weather in mind. So with all of those things in mind, I knew I wanted to try to keep to a 5-day schedule, give 20 days of work, knowing that I think it really only took 16 or 17 days by the end of it. And those probably weren't all full days. So it's still estimated to about the same. Oh, right. And they weren't all full days because it would rain partway through the day. And that happened several times. And then there was one day where it was 95 degrees. And I had to be like, I can't, need to leave. It's 1 o'clock and it's too hot in the sun. But I think you should always try to estimate your time, or this is what I've learned in freelancing, estimate your time the best you can, and then just double it.
Right.
So if I thought it was going to be 10 or 12 days, then it was going to be 24, and that's how you keep yourself safe, kind of.
Right. What happened when it did rain? Like, did the paint get damaged at all?
I had to, that became very stressful by the end. I had to make sure that we were leaving a good amount of time before the rain would start. It would have maybe been damaging at the beginning when I was doing large spots of paint. I think towards the end when I was doing smaller areas, I wasn't as worried. Also, parts of the shell were covered. The shell itself was covered. So if I knew that the rain was coming in an hour or two, I would work on the parts that I knew weren't going to get hit as hard. Like I wouldn't work on the front of the stage area, which is obviously exposed the most to the elements. So I would restructure things, or if someone else was painting with me, I would make sure that they were aware of this too. But usually it was having us leave before the rain came. I never worked up until the rain. There were some moments of like sprinkles that I was like, okay, now we have to leave. But nothing ever poured down at the moment of when the paint was wet.
You're pretty good at predicting what the weather was going to do then.
It was very rough. I mean, if it looked like it was going to rain for sure, and that's what I was constantly looking at weather apps. But if it was like a 20% chance, a 30% chance, we would push it a little bit, because I feel like if you follow the weather like that, you always know it gets pushed back a little hour or two later than it usually says. Like if it says it's going to start raining, it tends to push back a bit. Are there any other questions?
I just want to say thank you for the ride and the lift. It was cool to be up at the top of it. That's a perspective you don't always see.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that.
Jack got into the lift with me and we went up because he filmed the shell from.
Yeah, I wasn't just walking by and asked for a ride.
Oh, I thought you were doing that with a really fancy zoom lens.
Yeah.
Thank you, Megan. This is great. So much information. So we'll all know, like, we'll all be bothering you for information about how to do these kinds of projects now.
Anyone who's going to make a mural, you can always ask me more questions later. When I did my first large scale mural, I messaged a lot of muralists on Instagram and actually heard back from them and got a lot of really great information and feedback that way. So I'm happy to answer anyone's questions. I think people are really happy to talk about their experience. So.
Well, if there's no other comments or questions, we can draw this to an end. Anybody else want to say anything? Pop anything in the chat? Nope. Okay. Thank you again, Megan. Thank you, Jack, for the video. Thank you, Allison, for painting. And for everybody for coming. And this video recording will be up on YouTube in probably 2 days or so. And I will send everybody who registered the link. So you can watch it over and over and send it to all your friends who want to know like how to make a really cool mural.
And you might want to include the link to the any of the videos.
Sure. Okay, great. Okay, super. All right. Thank you all.
Megan, thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Good job.
Bye-bye.
Bye.